Hey everybody, this is Bill. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking college football. The season is upon us, and in this video we're going to preview the Atlantic Coast Conference for 2023. So come aboard as we take a look at the ACC. Now, finishing last this year in the ACC, we have the Virginia Cavaliers. Now Virginia finds themselves at a crossroads. Tony Elliott came over to spark some life into the program, but the program seemingly grinded to a halt. The Cavs had some moments, like almost beating Miami and defeating Georgia Tech, but they did lose 6 of their final 7. Now, tragedy struck this program with a shooting that ended the lives of 3 players, each of whom were well-respected contributors to the team and the surrounding community. We all suffered in this loss. The aftermath appropriately resulted in the cancellation of the Who's final 2 games, and the sportsmanship from Coastal Carolina and Virginia Tech was very much appreciated. Now, over the summer, several top players left the program, in the offense particularly, so Virginia has work to do. Now, Monmouth transfer Terry Musket will assume the duties at quarterback, we think. 3 of the top running backs return, but only 1 lineman. The top receiver, who had 17 catches, he's back. Now, Elliott will have some work to do to bring some magic to that offense. Now, there are some pieces returning on a defensive unit, welcoming back 8 starters, including 4 of the top 5 2022 tacklers. The front returns all 4 starters, including Bandit Chico Bennett, who should be in the mix for conference honors, along with middle linebacker James Jackson. Now, this pair is going to be busy. Cohen King has 11 starts at safety to lead the secondary. Now, other than a midseason tussle with William and Mary, Virginia may be an underdog in every game this year. They open versus Tennessee, which is going to be a brutal affair there. But although they miss Florida State and Clemson, North Carolina and Miami, they're on the road. Now, Elliott has got to work on building the team for the future, but this sadly has a 1-11 season written all over it for the Cavaliers. Now, in the pecking order of the ACC, we find these next 3 teams somewhat interchangeable in the predicted finish, but we're going to have Georgia Tech here. Now, we've always thought of the Jackets as a sleeping giant. And last year, they did part company with Jeff Collins. We were kind of surprised that didn't work out. But they've hired a player on the staff, Brent Key. He's an alumni, played at Tech, to take over. Now, he got 2 upsets, big ones, out of the gate. And they continued to play very solid football. That included an upset over North Carolina. Now, do the Jackets have something coming into this season? Well, there are few players seemed poised to make noise as all-conference candidates, but this should be a solid group. Former Texas A&M starter Haynes King looks to be the signal caller. The running back position is open, where Louisville transfer Trey Cooley has a shot. At receiver, Alabama transfer Christian Leary and Georgia transfer Dominic Blaylock are set to shine. The line has got experience, but it should be better this year. The top 3 tacklers from 2022 are gone. Another A&M transfer, Andre White, should be the top guy in there. He's at linebacker. Now, the line is adequate, and the secondary is experienced, led by Lamiles Brooks, who's an all-ACC player. Now, we need to see how Key gets the new faces and leadership working together there at Tech. A win in the opener at Louisville would kickstart the season in fine fashion. We just don't think they can get that done, though. They've got road contests at Ole Miss and Wake Forest that come quick. Miami and Clemson are conference road games. Boston College, North Carolina, and Syracuse are at home. And, of course, mighty Georgia comes to Atlanta to take the place over. Now, it would seem there are 5 sure losses here for Tech. But pick one of those off, maybe drop one, and they could find the Jackets in a bowl game, which would be huge for the program and Brent Key. Now, we just see them falling just shy of that goal, but they could do it. At 12th, we're going to go with Virginia Tech. There has been a somewhat steady decline for this once proud Virginia Tech program, but there's an eagerness to get things turned around in Blacksburg. Now, 14 some odd starters return, and with the help of a handful of transfers, Coach Brent Pry hopes to solidify his foundation. There are no surefire all-conference players on this roster, so it will be small steps for the Hokies. Grant Wells is back at quarterback, but he threw 9 touchdowns against 9 interceptions. Kyron Drones has come into the program from Baylor. He could take the job. The top 2 rushers are gone, but Bay Shoal Tootin and Malachi Thomas are going to fight that out for that position. Old Dominion transfer Allie Jennings should be the top receiving target. The line is average, but it does lack appropriate depth. The lunch bucket crew on the stop side the Hokies are known for has underperformed for years now, but 5 of the top 7 tacklers from 2022 do return. Now, defensive tackle Mario Kendricks and Norrell Pollard are studs, and they give the Hokies a stout front. And Mansour Delane leads an active back 7. Now, while 2-2 may be likely out of the gate, 3-1 would be good before home games with Pitt and Wake Forest sandwich a road game at Florida State. Homers with Syracuse and NC State surround road games at Louisville and Boston College. Virginia, to close, is on the road. Now, this schedule will allow for a bowl trip if the Hokies can perform, but we think they might be a year away from doing that. Interested to watch the Hokies. 11th, we have Boston College. Now, at times, we have found Coach Jeff Hafley to be doing well at BC, but then again, there does not seem to be any measurable progress, and the program slipped last year to 3-9. This is not good. Now, one could point to the talented quarterback Phil Jerkovic, who was off the Pitt, getting hurt, but backup Emmett Moorhead played pretty well. So, another key injury that was a big deal was the loss to Christian Mahogany up front. He is an All-America player. He was lost prior to the season. So the line ended up a mess, but it will be much improved in 2023. The top rushers are back, but the Eagles will have new faces at receiver. The loss of talented Zay Flowers will definitely hurt. That kid was special. Now the defense will be fun to watch. Up front, Donovan Izaraku, I believe. He'll be a force. Watch linebacker Vinny DePalma. He led the team in stops a year ago. And Bryce Steele, they're going to form a strong unit. Linebacker Cam Arnold and corner Elijah Jones are good players, but the secondary is pretty green. Now, the early season finds Florida State visiting week 3, followed by a roadie at Louisville. The second half has winnable home games and road tilts at Syracuse and Pitt before a visit from the Miami Hurricanes. Now, we think Boston College can go bowling, and they might need to if Hafley plans to remain employed there in Chestnut Hill. 10th, we have Wake Forest. That sounds odd to say, but that's where we got the Deacons. Now, Wake has had some really good years recently, and they were left a bit empty after the departure of talented quarterback Sam Hartman, who ran the Deacs offense perfectly. Now, only 5 starters are back offensively, so it has the feel of a fresh start. Although top wideout A.T. Perry is gone, the next 4 pass catchers from last year, led by Donovan Green, who had 37 catches, are back. Top rusher Justice Ellison is also back, and he and Green are both honors candidates. The line is more than adequate, but all eyes are on Mitch Griffiths at quarterback as he begins his tenure. Now, the defense has holes, but 3 of the top 4 2022 tacklers are back. Chase Jones is a quality linebacker, and we like safety Malik Mustafa. Now, Wake is going to be 4-0 before they go to Clemson, where they hope to comport themselves well to keep the confidence level high. Pitt, Florida State, and NC State are home contests, while Duke and Notre Dame are the top road tilts. Now, Wake should definitely reach a bowl, but it is going to be interesting to see how the quarterback play is. We just think Hartman was a special player. Just don't think Wake Forest can pull it off again this year. But they probably have a winning record and go to a bowl, but this is not the Wake Forest that you saw the last couple of seasons in our minds. 9th, we have Syracuse. Now, the Orange has been up and down over the years under Dino Babers, and we thought he was about to be done. But Syracuse rolled out 6-0 last year before falling in a tough one at Clemson. They did end up finishing 7-6. Now, looking into this year, there are losses as we head into the season. Most notably, top running back Sean Tucker, great player. Now, the Orange will see how talented LaQuint Allen can be. Now, quarterback Garrett Schrader does return, and that guy makes plays. Now, at tight end, All-America candidate Aronde Gadsden II, he does return, and he's quite dangerous for opposing stop troops. Options are open for a new crew to step up on the outside, however. Only 2 linemen are back, led by Kalon Ellis, but the group is scrappy. Now, defensive coordinator Tony White has departed, but Rocky Long, a brilliant defensive mind, he takes over, so we look for the defense to keep right on rocking. 8 of the top 10 tacklers from 2022 return, including top tackler Marlowe Wax, the Syracuse middle linebacker. Now, the unit, they seem poised to have some players really have a big year, and we're looking for transfer Jaden Gold as a player who could break out in the secondary. Now, a mid-season stretch where the Qs host Clemson and then visit North Carolina and Florida State seems pivotal. Syracuse can have a chance to win all of the rest, so it could be a great year for Syracuse and Dino Babers. But odds do favor a stumble or two, so we think 7-5 is a reasonable record for Syracuse, but again, they're a team to keep your eye on. They could beat somebody they're not supposed to. 8th, we have Louisville. Now, oftentimes we look at the Cardinals as a scary bunch who can get just about anybody on any given day. And now, with favorite son Jeff Brom taking over as head coach after his successful run at Purdue, Louisville could really get rolling. Now, the U of L returns their leading rusher, but the receiving corps is thin and experienced. But Brom knows quarterbacking, and Jake Plummer has come over from Cal to take over for the departed Malik Cunningham, who's off to the National Football League. So they will get the pass catchers they need to catch the ball. Center Brian Hudson is a national honors candidate on the line. Now, 7 starters are back on defense, but the unit is inexperienced in the front 7 outside of Aston Gillette. Corner Jarvis Brownlee has played well since transferring in from Florida State, and he will challenge for all conference honors. Storm Duck comes over from North Carolina to bolster the secondary. Now, schedule-wise, NC State, Pitt, and Miami make up the toughest road tests. The Cardinals open in Atlanta against Georgia Tech and play Indiana in a neutral game in Indianapolis in the first month. Notre Dame, Duke, and Kentucky are home contests. No Clemson, no Florida State, and no North Carolina. Those are probably the top 3 teams coming into the season in the ACC. So if things go well, this team could win 10 games. But we think time is needed for Brom to really get everything installed. Therefore, we like an 8-4, 7-5 type of season, but Louisville is no pushover. Do not tread lightly around them. At 7th, we have North Carolina State. Now, last year, we picked NC State to win the conference. Well, they fell to Clemson, and then they lost their quarterback, so that had them falling apart. In fact, Devin Leary, the quarterback, he's left the program. So now, Brennan Armstrong, he comes over from Virginia, and he has thrown for some big yardage in a bunch of games over his career, so we're interested to see how he does. Top rusher Jordan Houston, he returns, but the top 3 receivers are gone. Now, the line has experience returning. They're led by offensive tackle Timothy McKay. Now, only 5 starters are back on that top 22 defensive unit that NC State had. One of them, however, is linebacker Peyton Thomas. He's stellar, and he is going to join top-notch corner Aiden White to form a good nucleus. Schedule-wise, Notre Dame comes calling in week 2. That's a big football game. And another homer with Louisville. We just talked about Louisville. That highlights the early slate. But then they have road games at Duke. They're very much improved. That precedes back-to-back homers with Clemson and Miami. Now, North Carolina State hosts North Carolina, their rival, this year. Now, the Wolfpack, they could be 9-3 with this schedule, but we think 8-4 is about where they're going to end up, and that's a pretty good year for this squad. They do got some holes to fill, so 8-4 for North Carolina State. 6th this year in the ACC, we have the Pitt Panthers. Now, Pittsburgh, who played in the ACC Championship Game just a couple of years ago, has been really close in seasons recently under Pat Narduzzi. Pitt lost a close one versus Tennessee last year, and they were 3-1 before an embarrassing setback against Georgia Tech. Now, after smashing Virginia Tech, Pitt dropped a pair of roadies before winning 5 in a row to close. Now, they had a hole at quarterback coming into the season, but through the portal, they brought in Boston College signal caller Phil Jerkovic. That guy can play. There is talent to work with on offense, so Pitt should be fine there. Limited starters return, however, on the stop sign, but a pair of players, corner MJ Devonshire and linebacker Bengali Kamara have ACC potential to get conference honors. Now, Pitt plays 5 before they get a bye week, and that includes a visit to West Virginia for the backyard brawl and a home date with North Carolina. Now, off the bye, a 4-game stretch. Homers with Louisville and Florida State, bookending road tilts at Wake Forest and Notre Dame looms large. Pitt does close at much improved Duke. Now, Jerkovic could be a high-level NFL talent, so he can make things happen, so keeping him healthy will be very important for Pitt. But Pitt seems to be looking at no more than 4 or 5 setbacks, so we think it's going to be a successful season for the Panthers. Maybe not quite what they're looking for, but nonetheless, they'll be bowling. At 5th place in the ACC, we have Duke. That's right. Those Blue Devils, they were perhaps the most pleasant surprise in the country last season, going from the cellar to recording a 9-4 year and a resounding bowl victory over UCF. Now, Coach Mike Elko got heavy consideration for Coach of the Year, appropriately so. Now, Duke is a veteran football team coming into 2023. I'm kind of surprised they don't have more people looking at them as a possible top 25 team. They have 18 starters back. Now, quarterback Riley Leonard, that guy can flat play, and he will be a problem for opposing defenses to contain. All the skill talent returns, so alert the scoreboard operator. Now, defensively, the front 7 seems legit. Defensive tackle Dwayne Carter, he's a good one. The veteran Devils have a chance to make a thundering national statement schedule-wise as they welcome Clemson in Labor Day weekend in the opener. But the schedule is tough. They got a stretch that includes 3 home games with Notre Dame and North Carolina State before a road game at Florida State. That seems very important, that stretch. So there are likely 4 or so losses on this schedule. And Duke is not going to sneak up on anybody this year. But this is a good football team. Let's make no mistake about that. And they should definitely be bowling. Riley Leonard, keep him healthy. He going to make some things happen. At 4th, we have the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Miami has been underperforming for a couple of decades now. But last season really hit a low. It was so bad. There were grumblings, wondering if newly hired head coach and former player Mario Cristobal was the home run hire that they think he is. The Canes limped badly to close 2022. So let's look to 2023. They do return a veteran team on both sides of the ball. So this really needs to be a season of success for Cristobal and the Canes. Tyler Van Dyke was woeful last season at quarterback, impacted by injuries seemingly throughout, but we do expect him to be better. He can't be that bad. He looked good 2 years ago. The offensive line's decent, and the Canes always house a ton of skill position players. Now, Leonard Taylor's dynamite up front defensively, where most of the unit returns, including highly touted safety Cameron Kitchens. Now, the Canes have an opportunity to gain momentum if they can knock off Texas A&M early at home. Clemson and Louisville are home games with North Carolina, North Carolina State, and rival Florida State on the road. There's no Duke and no Pitt. So the Canes have got 8-4 looking pretty good in the season. Looks like it to us. And anything less would seemingly be another disappointment. We'll have to see how it shakes out. 3rd in the ACC in 2023, we have North Carolina. Now, the Tar Heels have been up and down, but had a decent season last year as freshman quarterback Drake May came out firing. Now, the sophomore, he's a national honors candidate, and with 9 total offensive starters back, the Heels could be potent. Now, on defense, linebacker Cedric Gray, he leads that unit, which brings back 8 starters, including the top 5 tacklers from a year ago. Now, the schedule's a tough one. And there are 2 games we think could derail the Heels. The neutral opener against a dangerous South Carolina team and a home game against a physical Minnesota team from the Big Ten. Now, if North Carolina gets out of that 4-0, they have a road trip to Pitt, which is going to be a big game. The rest of the way, they got Miami and Duke at home and have road tilts at Clemson and NC State, which are tough football games. Now, North Carolina's got a chance, but the early and late games are pivotal to their success. But we think 8 wins and a bowl game are definitely in the cards for North Carolina, if not more. Second, in the ACC this year, we have Clemson. Now, the Tigers fell off last season from their perennial playoff perch, and there are questions as to whether this is the new direction or will the Tigers snap back and bite. A change was made at quarterback last year where five-star Cade Klubnik took over. Now, Klubnik has displayed athleticism and has shown top ability, but the sophomore has a learning curve ahead. Clemson does have Will Shipley back. He's a top-notch running back. He's going to challenge for national honors. There are talented but young skill position talent at wideout. And the line seems young and not quite up to recent standards for the Tigers. Now, the defensive unit is stellar. Tyler Davis, he anchors another strong defensive front. Linebackers Jeremiah Trotter and Barrett Carter are both national honors candidates. The secondary, veteran and very high quality. Now, an opener at Duke could be a problem. We like Duke. But boy, this is Clemson, and they should get by the Devils. They've got a home game against Florida State, which sets the ACC stage because although there are tough games at Miami and NC State and at home against Notre Dame, the Tigers are going to be favored the rest of the way. Now, Clemson may get Florida State again in the ACC title game. That's what we're projecting. Now, Clemson's going to be very interesting to watch this season. We want to see which direction they take. We think we know, but we want to see it. And we expect them. They're a very good football team. We expect them in the ACC Championship Game. They could win it, and they could be right back in the playoff. A lot of it's going to depend on Klubnik's play. But Clemson, looking good. Our projected ACC champion for 2023 is Florida State. Now, the Seminoles beat LSU in New Orleans to kick off the 2022 season and opened 4-0 before dropping 3 in a row against ACC contenders before closing very strongly, including a bowl victory over Oklahoma. Now, a veteran Florida State team led by quarterback Jordan Travis and defensively by rush end Jared Verse, both All-Americans. They got those guys poised to break the Seminoles out on a national stage. Now, FSU has an experienced and improved line, a slew of talented running backs, and a top receiver room, which now includes Michigan State transfer Keon Coleman. Defensive end Patrick Payton is a future star, and the secondary, which welcomes Virginia transfer Fenton Cypress, is quite deep. Now, FSU opens in a top 10 matchup against LSU in Orlando before traveling to Clemson in late September. If FSU's 4-0, look out. Even at 2-2, the Noles could still win the ACC, and if they're 3-1, they could still get a crack at the playoff if they do it. We just think that this is a veteran team, and that's why, particularly at the quarterback position, it's very key. That's why we're picking the Seminoles to win the ACC in 2023. Well, there you have it, folks. That's how we see the Atlantic Coast Conference shaping up for 2023. We've got Florida State and Clemson in a rematch in the ACC Championship Game. We have the Seminoles coming out victorious. Going to be a great year in the ACC. Now, do drop us some comments. Let us know what you think about our predictions for the ACC. Let us know what you're thinking. If we got this right or we missed something. Is there a team out there you like that you think, hey, they're going to sneak up on us? Love to hear about it, folks. But we do appreciate you taking time out to watch. Look for our other conference previews. We got those out there on YouTube here. And we will also have our top 25 coming out shortly. Appreciate you watching, folks. We'll see you next time.